Hey guys, I'm gonna try once again to do this Q&A video. This is my second attempt at this point. First time I didn't have my camera charged all the way and it was just kind of a mess. I had to start and stop a lot. So, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it all over again because at least at this point I know the answers to the questions a little bit better. So, gonna go through, as always, I'm not going to answer every question. Some questions I've answered many, many times. Some questions I just don't feel like answering. And there's some duplicates here and there. So I'm just going to kind of go through, pick a couple dozen, and take it from there. Somebody says, would you say that Axe-Fx is difficult to figure out? It can be. It can be a pretty daunting task to figure out once you get it. But as complicated as it can be, it can also be very simple. There's, for the most part, depending on the model, they come with a different amount of presets and different types of presets or whatever for different sounds, and there's just so much variety in there that it's a lot of fun to just kind of mess around with a lot of different things, and it can really spark a lot of different types of creativity. But if I was going to say build a tone from scratch on there, it can be pretty hard because you can change every little bit of a tone. You could change an amp's every single EQ bit. You can change the cab, you can change the speakers, you can add effects, tweak effects beyond your wildest dreams, and so on. It can be very, very complicated, but finding good sounds out of it is not difficult. These machines really, really create some amazing sounds. So don't let how complicated they can be keep you from trying one out, because they're really great. Next question, what do I think of American Football, the band? Well, I can honestly say I've never listened to American Football, and the only thing I can judge them on is the name, and I don't get these bands with names like this. American Football, Modern Baseball, Canadian Hockey, whatever. I don't know. I'm assuming it's a pop punk band, but I've never listened to them. And there's a lot of pop punk bands out there. There's a lot of bands in general out there that I've at least heard of, but I've just never listened to. I don't really listen to much of the pop punk genre as a whole. I know the bands that I like, and I just kind of stick to that. As far as like listening to new music, I don't usually check out the pop punk genre because it's usually just full of kids that just keep recycling the same sort of riffs and lyrics and whatever. I'm just kind of tired of it. But I mean, that's not to say that maybe they're not good. I don't know. I've just never listened to them. Next question is, what is my favorite Foo Fighters album? I've grown to really appreciate Foo Fighters over the past year or two, especially since Wasting Light came out, which is my favorite Foo Fighters album. It's the one that they did, mostly in Grohl's garage, if not all in his garage or whatever. And every one of those songs is just heavy. It's in your face, just rock and roll, and it just sounds awesome. And that's not to say I don't like a lot of the other albums, but this one, straight out of the mixing board, I guess you could say. I don't know where I was going with that. Just as soon as I put it on, I liked it. Some of their other albums were not as quick for me to get into. It took a little bit of time to digest, but this album was really, really just in your face. It's just a great album. A lot of great songs on it. I mean, I love a lot of their other albums, like There's Nothing Left to Lose and The Color and the Shape, and even the first album. The first album, I only really started appreciating probably about this year. I kind of didn't really care for it, but the more I watched like documentaries on Foo Fighters and everything, it made me want to check it out some more. And it's a great album, especially since it's only Dave Grohl that made that album. It's pretty crazy. Let's see. Alex says, I know you're not a huge fan of Tom DeLonge, To the Stars, demos, odds and ends, whatever, but do you know who was responsible for the drums? I'm pretty positive it was Brooks Wackerman who went with them on the who went with Blink on the Australian tour dates that they did, last year or two or whenever it was, when Travis didn't end up going. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's actually the case or not, but I don't know. That's what I heard. And you say you like to hear my opinion on the drum work for the song Suburban Kings. I listened to that album maybe twice, and I wrote it off pretty quickly. I don't really even remember that song almost at all, so I can't really say. He seemed like a pretty good drummer, not really on the same level as like Travis or something, but he seemed to know his shit. So I don't know. I can't really comment more than that though, and I don't really plan to listen to that album anymore, or just in the future. It's just not my thing really. Alex also asks, looking forward to your new music. Do you know if there will be physical copies? I'm sure there will be. What that'll really entail, kind of depends on a couple things when it comes out, I guess. But, I'm sure I will do something as far as a physical release. I like having something to hold on to, it's one of those things that's just really cool. And I like shipping stuff out to people, and I don't know if I'll do much. I might do a small round of maybe 100. Maybe I'll just do a 200 thing. I don't know. I did 200 the first time, and I sold maybe about half so far. But that being said, I have sold a good amount just digitally. So I don't know. It's kind of depends on where I'm at, especially money wise. I pay for all this stuff up front out of my own pocket, and just kind of hope that people get into it and want to buy it. So, there's always that possibility of doing like a GoFundMe page or a Kickstarter or something, whatever. But I don't know. I haven't really thought much into that. But I'm sure there will be a physical release. I just like having them. Nick asks, overall, can you name how many guitars you've had over the years? Because I've lost count. Honestly, I've lost count too. A couple years ago, I made a list, and I'm pretty sure I was accurate at the time. I had about 40, but that was a couple years ago. And starting a couple years ago is when I really started ramping it up and wanting to try new things and wanting to put stuff together just to kind of learn how like guitars work and stuff like that. So they've kind of gone out, pretty quickly. Not so much maybe the past year, but last year and the year before that, I sold quite a few. So, I would guess I'm around 60, maybe 70, but I don't know. I do not know. I got a question from Alexander. Can you advise some good instrumental pop punk? Honestly, I don't know of any instrumental pop punk. Some people consider my album or my EP that I put out to be pop punk, but it's kind of its own thing, really. But I don't know. I don't know anything instrumental that's pop punk, really. When I'm listening to different instrumental bands, or when I'm trying to find new instrumental bands, none of them really are pop punk. They're usually pretty experimental, or like a post rock kind of thing, like a Explosions in the Sky type of thing, or whatever. But yeah, I never really come across anything like that. If you do, let me know. What are my top 3 songs on each Blink album? That's a question I've been asked way too many times. Sorry. And at this point, I don't really like just answering what are my favorites this or my favorite that or what's my favorite album by this band. It's just I like what I like at the time, and that changes all the time depending on how I am. I change all the time. My favorite album, today isn't necessarily my favorite album 10 years ago. So, it's I don't know. I never really liked those kind of questions that much. Okay, that question I'll kind of tie into later. Have I ever listened to Lions? No, I haven't. Another one of those bands I just never even heard of. What's my favorite porn site? Nice, Nathan. That's a great question. Would you make tabs for your What If This Song Had a Guitar Solo series? Honestly, I do get requests to do that a lot, and I definitely appreciate the people enjoying them and wanting to learn them, but I fucking hate writing tabs. And I don't know anybody out there that does like writing tabs. And I don't know. I'd just rather spend my time making new content and, making better content instead of just sitting there writing out tabs, because writing tabs is annoying. I know that they would help you guys out, but I don't know. I can't bring myself to just sit down and do it. It's just not something I like doing. What is my opinion on Vox, and more specifically the AC30? I get questions about Vox all the time, especially since Tom DeLonge moved over to Vox and Fender amps. I've never used a Vox amp. I've never used the AC30. But, I hear about them all the time. I see tons of people using them, especially for like lighter rock stuff, definitely not like heavier stuff. And they seem to sound good, I have some Vox models, I guess you could say, or Vox like presets on my Axe Effects that sound cool, but I haven't physically used one, and honestly, I don't know if I've ever even been in a store that has them. Definitely more of a British thing, but I know they have them around here, some stores, but yeah, I've never used one. I imagine they're good, they've been around for a long time. Will I do more of videos like the What If Tom DeLonge wrote this new Blink-182 song? Honestly, I was very, very surprised how well that video did. At this point, it's not even a week old, and it's got almost 30,000 views, which is way more than my average video gets. I realize that part of that is timing. The song just came out, so. But I don't know. It has to be an idea that inspires me, and it has to be something that just makes me feel like it's right. It has to be something that I know I can pull off, because I know Tom DeLonge and his style very well. You could say that I've studied it for, I don't even know how many years now, 15 years, and I don't know. So I feel like I know Tom's tendencies pretty well, but I can't really say if I'll do that style very much. It kind of depends. I did consider doing a Seosin one recently, like what if Justin Shikowski was still in Seosin. Like I was going to do that for one of the new Seosin songs, but it didn't end up happening. I just kind of forgot about it. I could still do it, but I don't know. I mean, it really depends. And then someone else asked, can you do what if Paul McCartney wrote bass lines for Blink? I don't know shit about the Beatles. I don't know much about Paul McCartney at all, So, I mean, that sort of thing, it really depends on what I know and what I feel like I can pull off, So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I definitely acknowledge the fact that people liked that video a lot and that people want more of it, so it's not something I'm just going to forget about, but we'll see what happens. Next question. Do I listen to any non-English or foreign music? I don't listen to a lot of non-English bands, at least vocally. I definitely prefer knowing what I'm hearing or knowing what I'm listening to, but that doesn't necessarily keep me from enjoying music. I mean, most of what I listen to these days is completely instrumental. It doesn't even have a singer. So I definitely don't need to know what they're saying, but just hearing foreign voices in general just always kind of, at least in music, throws me off a little bit because I'm always just wondering what the hell they're saying. But I mean, over the past couple of years, I mean, I've listened to a decent amount of Mars Volta. I haven't really gotten into them lately. It's been a while. Um, but some of those songs off of like France's The Mute, that one had some killer guitars and stuff in it, and that was like a mix of Spanish and English. So that was pretty cool. There's another Japanese band that I'm pretty sure sang in Japanese that was just a really, really good metal band that I found a couple years ago called Galnerius, and those guys are pretty cool. I haven't listened to them in ages, but from what I remember, they sang Japanese, and I didn't really care just because the riffs were so good. But I love bands that are not technically English. I mean, I listen to tons of foreign bands, but most of them do sing in English. So take a quick break, and I will be right back with the next question. Okay, just needed to grab a quick drink. Next question. What's my opinion on the Secret Machine stuff that Tom DeLonge is doing? Apart from the EP, am I interested in UFOs? I don't know what that has to do with an EP, but I don't know. I do not keep up with any of Tom's projects. I know I've mentioned that before. I do tend to check out his musical stuff when it comes out, when people tell me it's coming out. But I have literally zero interest in any of his books or movies or whatever. You know, it's just not something I really get into, so I can't really say. And am I interested in UFOs? Not really, but you know, I like maybe alien movies and stuff like that. Signs was one of my favorite movies when I was growing up. I always thought that was a cool movie. Independence Day, that was a cool movie. Stuff like that. Do I like jazz? I don't really listen to just straight up jazz music, but I love when guitar players incorporate jazz, or just musicians in general incorporate jazz like into other styles. Like Pliny, he does a really great job, you know, mixing jazz with fusion-y type of stuff with rock and metal, and it's incredible. C2A on his newest album has a jazzy sort of track that actually features Pliny, and that track is crazy good. It's called Spirals, I believe. Very good. Do I ever rock out to Eagles of Death Metal? No, never listened to them. Excuse me. But I meant to check them out. You know, after I heard about the stuff that happened in France at their show with like the terrorist attack, you know, I just couldn't believe it. But you know, I was definitely following the story a bit, and I meant to check them out, but I never did. Especially because I know that Josh Homme has something to do with that band. I think he plays with them sometimes. I don't know, but I really like his stuff with Queens of the Stone Age. So I meant to check it out just because I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get into it. But at this point, I just haven't listened to him at all. Question from another Alex. There's a lot of Alexes. How would I rank the Blink albums? Another question I've gotten many, many, many times. Let me just make it short. Self-titled, I guess, Enema of the State, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, Dogs Eating Dogs. No, scrap that. Dude Ranch, Dogs Eating Dogs. neighborhoods, I guess. And then, you know, Cheshire Cat, Buddha, whatever. Fly Swatter, I couldn't even really say much about. I've only listened to that like once. Let's see. How many people, or have people ever come up to you in public because of your channel? Not once. I live in a very small town, you know. But, you know, if I lived in a city, I mean, I'm sure it would be more likely, but no, I live in a pretty small area. I mean, my town's only got a population of like 10,000 or something like that, but which isn't that small, but it's pretty small. I did have one guy say that he saw me outside a show I was going to. I was going to see Bayside once, and I remember I was talking about it on my Facebook page, and this guy chimed in. He's like, "Oh, I thought I saw you out there. You know, I wasn't sure." And I called his bluff. I'm like, "Oh yeah, what shirt was I wearing?" And he was right. It was some Newfound Glory shirt. And I was like, "Oh, should have said hi." But never did. What are the best and worst concerts I've ever been to? That's a good question. I don't think I could honestly say a best, but I always got to say Muse is one of the best shows that you will ever see live. Even if you get the chance to just watch some of their live shows on like YouTube or something, they put on an amazing show, and it's just incredible. I saw them twice. I saw them for the Black Holes Revelations tour, and I saw them for the Second Law tour. And honestly, I don't even know which one was better. I definitely had better seats for the second show, the Second Law. I was really close. But the other one had a better set list. You know, I think that was a better album in general, but I don't know. They were both great. First time I saw Blink was really great. You know, it was a small club in Boston. They were doing the Dollar Bill tour right before the self-titled album came out. That was amazing. The last show I went to was Pliny, Intervals, and a couple other bands, and that was a really, really great show. I still can't believe I got to see those guys live, you know, especially since, you know, Intervals from Canada and Pliny's out of Australia. You know, I never dreamt that I'd be able to see them, especially both in the same show. That's crazy. First time I saw Rush was really great. That was actually the first concert I ever went to, and I think I was 12 when I saw that show. It was for the Vapor Trails tour. That was a great, great show. Really great show. As far as worst, I went to a concert that was Reggie and the Full Effect, Alkaline Trio, and My Chemical Romance, and that concert actually was the reason why I stopped listening to My Chemical Romance, because as great as Reggie and the Full Effect was, and as great as Alkaline Trio was, even though, you know, their stage presence was a little boring, I don't know, My Chem, like, they played every song they must have had. You know, I wasn't familiar with their first album at all. I was only really familiar with Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, and they were still riding the success of that album, and they just kept playing song after song. I'm like, how many songs do these fucking guys have? And when it was finally done, I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. So, I don't know. That was probably the worst. I mean, not that it was a bad show by any means, but that one always stuck in my head as just a show that, for some reason, I just didn't love. As far as guitar tunings, how low is too low? I don't really think there is a too low, but I mean, once you start going like really, really low strings, like an 8 or 9 string guitar, it's hard to even hear those damn strings. Like, I was playing a 9 string at a Guitar Center once, and the thing was just so ridiculous, and I couldn't even make out what the notes were. There was just so much flub, you know. But say like a 6 string or something, you know, if you're in the right if you're using like the right set of strings and it's set up right, you could use whatever tuning you want. I think there's no real too low to go. So I don't know. Someone asks, neighborhoods versus self-titled. Really? Fuck neighborhoods. Self-titled is way better. Boxers or briefs? Boxer briefs. Why do I always get that question? Would maybe want to start playing guitar. I had a couple friends that had guitars. None of them knew how to play them, but they still had them around. And I would just like pick them up and just mess around with them. I'm like, I think this is something I could get into. And I was just starting to listen to like pop punk sort of stuff, like Sum 41 and Blink 182, New Found Glory, and it just seemed like something that was achievable for me. I was like, I think I could play these riffs. I think I could do this sort of thing. So I just kind of gave it a shot. Guitar's been in my family for a long time too. My great grandfather played. My grandfather played. My dad never played. He was more into drums, but there's always something. My chair makes a lot of noise. If you haven't noticed, I hate this chair. Do you think do you ever think that you will have your EP available on iTunes? No. iTunes just charges a lot of money to keep things up there, and the fees per sale are pretty high, and you need to keep paying them every year just to have your music on iTunes. I don't remember what the fee is, but it's stupid. They have enough money. Just having it on there should be free. If they want to have a fee for per sale, then fine. But I don't know. I never really liked it. I had some stuff on iTunes years and years ago when I did my Little Chaos stuff, but as soon as they asked me to pay more money to keep it on iTunes, I'm like, fuck you. I didn't pay them, so. It will be still Bandcamp from now on, and maybe if I end up getting like my own website or something, I'll sell them just directly from there. So I don't know. What do I think of Matt Skiba's guitar? I think Jaguars in general are pretty cool. Same thing with Jazz Masters, but I'm pretty sure he favors the Jaguars. But I always thought those those guitars were pretty cool. He has some really cool colored ones. I've seen like a pink one and a green, like a seafoam green one, I think. Those ones are really cool. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on one someday. But I never really liked how short of a scale they were. They're like a 24-inch scale. So you'd have to go a higher gauge of strings, which would kind of throw me off. So I don't really care for some of the stickers he throws all over his guitars, though. I know he's huge into Ducati bikes. So he always puts like Ducati stickers and stuff on the guitars, but whatever. I loved when he used to play the Les Paul Custom. That was cool. What did I make of Tom DeLonge's recent statement on Blink and himself? I'm assuming you're talking about like the Rolling Stone thing where he's saying that, he's still technically in the band, but, not really. As honest as I can be, do I consider him in the band? No, because he's not making music with them. So he can say he's in the band all he wants, but unless he's actively with them while they're doing their stuff, he's not in the band. He clearly cares more about his other projects, and that's fine. I get it. Not everyone can stay passionate about the same project forever. He wanted to try new things. The other guys kind of wanted to stick to their roots a little bit, and it's hard to find a balance to that. So, do I honestly think that someday they'll cross paths again and that they'll want to start making the same music together again? I don't know. I'm going to bet no, but it's really hard to say. You know, who knows? Stranger things have happened. Let's see. Last question on YouTube here. I got some others on Ask FM and Facebook. I have 3 questions. You said you have a job a lot of times in videos. Yes, I do. Where do I work? Not saying. I just like keeping some things private, you know. It's not really a big deal. It's not a huge paying job or anything like that. But I do what I gotta do. You know, it lets me buy guitars like that one back there every now and then, and lets me enjoy playing music when I'm not working. So, job's a job. When will we see your girlfriend on camera? You showed her on Instagram. I think technically I showed like a silhouette of both of us on the Sears Tower. But, you know, as far as YouTube goes, I mean, that's just my music outlet, you know. It's not really something that I use to show off my entire private life, you know. It's not something it's not like I do vlogs or something like that where I just have nothing that I don't share, you know. I don't know. I don't really think that she has any interest on being on camera with me or whatever. Maybe she does. Who knows? But I don't know. Some things I just like to keep separate. And have I checked out the new Weezer album? I had a lot of questions asking if I was going to check it out right when it was released. So I was like, fuck it, you know, I'll check it out. And granted, I didn't give it like probably the attention it deserved, but I did listen to a good amount of it, and people are really, really praising this album as being like one of the best ones they've done in a while, but it just sounded like another Weezer album to me. I didn't really hear anything special. I didn't really hear anything groundbreaking or anything. That's just me. I don't know. I've never been a huge Weezer fan. They definitely have some great songs here and there, but it was one of those bands that just has a lot of boring songs, a lot of filler songs, so I don't know. It's just another album to me. Let me see. Okay, more questions. Got like cotton mouth or something right now. Ugh. It's from talking so much. Let's see. Am I going to see Blink on their new tour? No. I've seen them 4 times already. And not that that's really a lot. There's plenty of people that have seen bands way more than that, but you know, it's enough for me. The only reason I would probably go is if my friends had tickets and somebody bailed and they really wanted somebody to go with them or something. That's probably the only reason I would go. And that being said, I think the bands that are going with them are like the worst possible choices for me personally. I'm sure just pop punk fans in general will be pretty psyched, but All American Rejects, they have some decent songs. You know, I used to really be into them with that first album they put out with like Swing Swing and the last song and Time Stands Still and whatever, but you know, I hear so many stories about those guys just being huge pricks, and it just kind of turned me off. And some of the stuff that they put out after that album was just garbage, like Give You Hell. There were some other ones like God, Dirty Little Secret. That song's pretty terrible. So I don't know. Can't Stand All Time Low. You know, I know a lot of you guys like them, but they are not a band I get into at all. And even more so than that, I cannot fucking stand A Day to Remember. I can't stand them. But whatever. And then DJ Spider. I know absolutely nothing about DJ Spider, but I'm assuming it's someone that Travis really wanted on the bill. And I don't know, I have a feeling that if it literally is just a DJ, that it's not really going to mix well with the other bands. I don't know if it's really going to be a big hit with the crowd, but who knows, I could be wrong. Next question is, have I listened to Broadway Calls or the mixtapes? Yes, I've listened to Broadway Calls. I've done quite a few covers of their songs over the past few years. Haven't listened to them much lately. And never listened to the mixtapes. When writing riffs and solos, do you think about scales and the key of the song or just go by ear? I mean, I definitely go in key. I could definitely tell when I'm not playing in the right key, but I don't ever have anything really in mind because I don't really know that much about theory or scales or anything like that. I just kind of play what I know and I play what my ear thinks is the right part. I'm sure learning theory and learning scales would absolutely benefit me, but it's just one of those things that I never really took the time to sit down and learn. So I just kind of play by ear mostly. Next question. I actually got this question many times. I was asked this question like 4 times. Am I excited about the new Call of Duty, especially since they're doing a remake of Call of Duty 4? Yes and no. I mean, the fact that they're doing a remake of COD 4 is really cool, but you gotta buy the special edition of the game just to play it. So you gotta spend $80 just to play it. Fuck that. And I watched the trailer for that new game for Infinite Warfare. That game looks like utter dog shit. That easily looks like the worst Call of Duty game that has ever been out. And I keep reading online that the trailer for that game is one of the most disliked videos on YouTube, like ever or something. And I know why. If they came out with a Call of Duty 4 remake that was a standalone release, even if it was full price, I wouldn't even give a shit if it was full price. I would pay it, but there's no way in hell I would support Infinite Warfare because it looks like shit, and it's just not worth my money, And I mean, it really depends on what people say about the Call of Duty 4 remake. If they say that it's holding up to the original and that it's not super buggy or whatever, and it feels like the original, then I would get it. But still, I'm not paying $80 just to buy both of those and let Infinite Warfare just sit there because I don't feel like giving them my money for that. It's just not worth it. What are my thoughts on C2A's new album? It's awesome. If you haven't heard it, it's called Set Course for Andromeda, and it's very, very good. It's over an hour long, and it's kind of like a double album, I guess. Tons of great guest spots, tons of awesome themes that just keep recurring through the whole album, and man, he just really knocked it out of the park. He did a really great job. Definitely one of the, if not, it's probably the best thing he's ever done, to be quite honest. And before that was, I think, the Senpai EP was the best thing he's ever done, so he just keeps getting better. Let's see, by trying to get the Tom DeLonge sound, how should I equalize the Mesa Boogie? And do I need 2 amps to produce the tone? I will always get people asking how to sound like Tom DeLonge. Honestly, you're never going to sound exactly like him. I mean, that's, the best answer I can give you. You're never going to sound exactly like him. There's definitely some videos where I got kind of close, but that's because I just know the way he plays, and I know his style, and that has a big part to do with it, like just as much as the EQing of an amp. But you just got to sit down and take time to learn your amp. You got to just play with the EQ for a long time, and you got to study how he plays, because you can't play your own style and really sound like him. Like you could have Tom DeLonge playing through, say, Jimi Hendrix rig. He's not going to sound like Jimi Hendrix. He's just going to sound like Tom DeLonge. It's just one of those things. So all I can really suggest is just, if you really, really want to sound like him, I mean, yeah, a Mesa's going to get you close, but I mean, depending on the model, it's hard to really say. There's so many different Mesa Boogie models out there. And mixing 2 amps, I mean, I know he did the Mesa Boogie and Marshall thing for a while, and then he's doing like the Fender and Vox thing now. That's just the way he likes doing his tone, which is cool. A lot of guys do that, but I don't know. It's definitely a tricky thing. I think you're better off just finding a tone you like, not necessarily trying to copy somebody else and just go from there. Let's see. What's my favorite guitar right now? Definitely my babe right there. I'm pretty sure you can see it in the camera. It's my blue PRS. Her name is Lucy, and I adore her. It's basically the only guitar I play these days. I do have a Strat, that red Strat you've seen in a couple videos. I really don't play that one that much. In fact, it is for sale. I have my Odessa Deadbeat, which I can't wait to finally be able to play that guitar again. I spent a while waiting for a new neck to be made because I really wasn't gelling well with the way the neck felt originally, so I sent the neck back to Mike at Odessa Guitars. He made me a new neck, which feels really great, but now I'm waiting on new pickups because I wasn't really digging the pickups that were in there. And it's been like a month and a half since I placed the order with this guy, and he just keeps going back and forth on his ideas, and I'm getting kind of fed up at this point, actually. So if those don't show up soon, then I might even cancel the order and just get, some other different pickup or something. I don't honestly know at this point, but I'm excited to play that one again whenever it happens. I do love my Taylor, my Taylor acoustic guitar. That's a it's a 416 CE. That's a great guitar. I really like it a lot. I have my bass right behind the camera. That's a great guitar too. Really easy and fun to play. My 335 is an incredible guitar. I love that thing. It's probably got like the best classic rock tone you could ask for. Most of you probably do not know, I did sell, well, technically I didn't sell, I traded my other PRS, the darker one, the first one that I got. I did trade that for my new Axe-Fx 2. So that is now living in Texas. And I think that's basically it. I don't have too many guitars right now. Let's see, Green Day versus New Found Glory. I know New Found Glory are shit now, but like back in the day, I mean, they're two completely different bands. I mean, a lot of people kind of group them into the same genre a lot, but they're pretty different. That being said, I did see them both on the same tour once. That was pretty cool. New Found Glory opened for them for part of their American Idiot tour. That was a pretty good show. But I don't know. They're completely different bands. Last batch of questions. Damn, camera shut off again. Really need to get a new camera. So, where was I? My thoughts on Chon. Chon are a band that, I've tried getting into before, and, just something about them just doesn't really do it for me. They don't do a lot of, like, lead work in the sense that it's not very melodic, I mean, it is and it isn't. I don't know, it's just the playing style just isn't really for me. I like stuff that's, smoother, that, almost sounds like a singer. I want stuff that doesn't just sound like just notes and notes and notes and notes just playing, just very chromatic. And I don't know, there's plenty of bands out there that are like that, and I can see the appeal, but none of them really seem to do it for me. Like what the hell is that band? What the hell are they called? Scale the Summit. That's another one that gets compared to them a lot, and I don't know, it just doesn't really do it for me. Thoughts on the band Ignite? Never heard of them. Sorry. What are my thoughts on weird or novelty guitar models, like the Squier Venus, for example? There's some pretty cool old Fender models that I like. One of them, like the original Bullet, I thought was really cool. Definitely not like the cheap Stratocaster Bullet or whatever they come out with now, but the original actual Bullet that was from like the early '80s was a cool guitar. It's similar to a Strat, but it's got some different aesthetic to it. I liked. I really like the old Music Master guitars. Those were kind of like a student guitar kind of thing back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and they haven't made those in a couple decades, but I always thought those were really cool. If I could make a 4-person band with any musician, who would it be? It would be Pliny on lead and rhythm guitar. It would be Aaron Marshall from Intervals on lead and rhythm guitar. It would be Simon Grove on bass, who plays bass in the Helix Nebula, and he also plays live and does some stuff with Pliny. And it would be probably Troy Wright, who does the drums right now live for Pliny. He does, pretty sure, a lot of stuff. Or Travis Orban, he's a killer drummer too. I might even say him. I'm going to say him over Troy, just because he seems to play a little heavier. I like that. Those guys would be unstoppable. What are my thoughts on Underoath? They're a band I get asked about all the time, but I never listen to them. All I know is that, they were big in like the mid 2000s when, like the kind of emo thing was really at its peak, but I don't know. They just were not a band that I really had any interest in. I had only heard a couple singles, but they didn't really do it for me, so I didn't really check out anything else. And what is my most anticipated release of 2016? This is the last question. It's a big one. There's a lot of bands that I listen to that are coming out with new albums this year. C2A just came out with a new album. Awesome. Seosin's coming out with one very, very soon. The Living End is coming out with one very soon. That one, I'm hoping it's at least decent. The first couple songs that they showed off from the album really weren't doing it for me, so I don't know. The Seosin album sounds like it's going to be really, really good though. Blink, could be great. It could be okay. I think at worst it'll be okay. I don't think it's going to be a bad album. But I'm very, very excited for Pliny's full length that he's working on. I don't know if that'll actually come out this year because I know he's going right back on tour very shortly, so we'll see. I can't wait for it to come out though. That's about all I can really think of at this point. Bayside's coming out with one. Bayside, I really didn't care for that last album very much. There's definitely some good songs on there, like Bear With Me and Stuttering. I like those, and Pigsty. Hate Me's a good one. But there's some songs in there that I just don't give a fuck about. Let me see. Big Cheese, it's got some good parts to it, but I don't love it. Time Has Come, same thing. You're No Match, don't really care for that song that much. Transitive Property, don't care for that song. Objectivist on Fire, don't care. Something's Wrong, don't care. Whitest Lie, don't care. So half of the album I really like, and half of it didn't do it for me. They did have a white edition of the album. Dancing Like an Idiot, it wasn't a bad song, but I didn't really care for it that much. Indiana, I thought was a really good song. I thought that was better than pretty much anything on the standard album. And their cover of Blondie's Call Me was really cool, so I did like that. They seem to do really good covers. But overall, because of that, I don't know. I'm not going to get my hopes up for the new album. I absolutely loved Killing Time, and the production on Killing Time was way better than it was on Cult. I feel like it just was a better sounding album. I don't honestly know if it was by the same guy. Let me see. Producer Shep Goodman, Aaron Aceta. Gil Norton was the one that produced Killing Time. I know I've heard that name before. Oh yeah, he's done Foo Fighters, Jimmy Eat World, bunch of other bands. So yeah, I'm not surprised. He's got a pretty big collection. And I don't know, it seems like these other guys that did Cult have a pretty good selection too. But I don't know. It just wasn't really hitting the same sound for me, but whatever. So the new album could be great, could be okay. We'll see. I hope it's good. So that's all I got. Sorry for the damn camera shutting off. I gotta get a new camera. This thing's driving me nuts. But thanks for watching, and thanks for all the questions. Thanks for staying interested. And catch you guys later. Let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll try to answer some. See you guys later.